So this is what's written. 250-year cycle was the US Revolution. 80-year cycle was World War II. We're entering a very interesting time that might end up being depressionary for people at large. It doesn't have to be for you. Okay, so let's go through it. Yes, lost decades are a real historical phenomenon. They often line up with long-term socioeconomic cycles, like the one you're referencing. And I'm going to go through solutions on this because this is, like I said, with Charles Dickens, opening sentence, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. Like this period of time, the next 10 to 20 years could be the best of times for you. But you have to understand what's happening so that you can tap into the correct information fast enough in advance of the things happening. Because that's what leaders do. They preempt and prepare for the things that are happening before it happens so that they are leaders during the time when it is happening. Because when it is happening, everyone's panicking, and then it's really easy to just be sucked into their frame of hive mind thinking when you should be outside of that thinking because you can separate yourself from the crowd because of the resources that you have available to you. Okay, so as we go through it, let's see. US 1930s, the Great Depression, we had 20 to 25% unemployment. Currently, right now, according to statistics, it's supposedly around 4 or 5% in the US. So it's a little bit higher, but could you imagine that it becomes 3 times worse or 5 times worse than currently? And how much more difficult it is to get jobs during that time frame compared to now. So, just something to think about. Huge social upheaval. Okay, this was during the Great Depression. Like you see pictures of like huge masses of people gathering outside of banks. If you look up Great Depression on Google Images, and you'll see that. How do you think it's going to look like in the future? In the next 10, 20 years, if we're continuing on this path. This is not negative stuff. This is just reality. And then you can create a positive spin to it, again, if you're prepared. But the masses of people are going to stand around ATMs, around banks to try and get their money out, which they won't be able to. And there's also going to be food lines for people because that's the only way that the government can prevent people from, like looting and creating absolute, havoc on cities. Productivity did eventually grow, but life was brutal for millions. When you read a lot of books, you begin to understand the patterns and what's going to happen eventually if we go a certain path. And so this is why I talk about it a lot on my channel, is to prepare the youth for what's coming. Okay, so the guys in the age of 18 to 35, to help them to become leaders so that they can absolutely crush it during this most important time frame of their lives, but also of the next 250 years. Like we're talking the 250-year cycle. I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so let's keep going. So we have the American Revolution. That was 3 80-year cycles ago, right? So it's 80-year cycles, but it happened 3 times. You got the Civil War era, so that was two 80-year cycles ago. And then you got the last 80-year cycle ago, which was World War II. And then this is most probably the next crisis era, right? You have the institutional breakdown, geopolitical conflict. This is kind of happening right now as we speak. Social restructuring, economic stress, technological realignment. Eventually, we're going to get out of it. I totally believe in that. Like, it is possible that AI would extinct us, but I don't believe it's going to happen as a result because of the depression. Okay, so because of the financial instability that we're going to go into, we can celebrate that AI is not going to kill us yet. Right? Because if we did go into this extreme growth situation where we're massively investing into AI, we're going to have people that are not in good mental health condition have access to decentralized weapons that could make things very dark for a lot of people. And potentially to extinct us completely because we don't know what AI can do eventually once it becomes a super intelligence, right? So to prevent that, it's actually very good to have a depressionary situation, not inflationary. So hyperinflation actually has a little bit more risk to it, in my opinion, because it could go towards massive investment into things that could destroy humankind. Okay. So I would prefer that we go into a depressionary situation, because then it's going to be, uh, well, it's still going to be extremely difficult, and the system will completely and utterly collapse. But at least we won't be over invested into technologies that could kill us, right? So we could start from scratch, but it wouldn't even be from scratch. It would be a period of time, whether it would be 10 years, 20 years, where we have to rebuild wealth and reallocate resources accordingly. So if we go into the 200 and 250 year institutional cycle, so that was 2 to 3 cycles of 80 years, right? Then you have empire rise, which was the US empire. They had peak. Then they go to debt. Now they have bureaucracy. And then comes the internal conflict, which is kind of what's happening in the US right now at a very small scale. We kind of experienced it, but it hasn't really happened. But let's see what's going to happen in the next 10 years. You can get ahead of this. Homelessness will rise in major cities. There will be UBI like, okay, universal basic income. So governments will try to provide for people. That's kind of an issue. Okay, real wages may stagnate or fall. Many young men will drop out of the labor force. So this is already visible. 25% of US adults have $0 in savings. And 37% of young men, 18 to 30, are not working full time. That's incredible. And yeah, you might say that some people are on YouTube or doing business or stuff like that, but 1/3 of dudes are not working full time. That's insane. Productivity growth is near zero over 15 years. So the past 15 years has been zero productivity growth, and real wages for many classes having increased since 2000. You compare that to inflation. I mean, I literally saw prices increase by 10% on bananas yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Like just in one day, you know? Obviously, it's been a while since it's increased, but 10%, boom. Like that's no one or very few people have 10% increase in wages within 1 year. There's solutions to this, and there's positivity if you preempt this strike, so to speak. But this is what's happening. Are we already in the pre-war recessionary zone? Historically, 1920s created instability because there was an asset bubble. And then we had the 1929 crash. We had the 10 to 15 year stagnation that led to World War II. Okay. And then, let's see, the pattern looked like debt buildup, elite fragmentation, failing institutions, populism, recessionary stagnation, and then war and major conflict, and then rebuilding boom. And ChatGPT says we're solidly between steps 4 and 5, which is between 4, populism, and 5, recessionary stagnation. That's where we're at. And so we're going to eventually experience the recessionary stagnation. That's what I'm preparing you for. And we have to be ready for the war or the major conflict that's going to change the way that the world powers are operating. So, coming back to the end line here, could we see a lost decade? Yes, says ChatGPT. In fact, it's the default scenario. Okay, so this is the 80% probability type thing, maybe even 90%. They predict the 2020s will be a decade of low productivity, demographic drag, meaning that the young people won't really enter into the workforce massively and be productive, which is a problem. We see that all the time. They choose arts, they choose, to create TikToks and all that crap. And then you've got higher conflict, inequality, financial instability, lower real living standards. ChatGPT says it doesn't mean that there's going to be a real total collapse, but it does mean grinding stagnation for a large part of the population, with wealth accruing mainly to capital owners, AI infrastructure owners, energy producers, large corporations, and then the last one, which is pretty much your only hope, you know? Unless you actually have a thriving business without debt that's going to do amazing during the recessionary times. And that just, you have to ask yourself that question. Is my business recessionary proof? And the last one, hard asset holders. This is your rescue. And what does that mean? It means that you are invested in something that is physical or something that has a hard cap of, the total amount that ever will be existing. And it's gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And that's the rescue for you moving into the next 20 years. Okay, so what is the actual solutions? Is it just gold, silver, Bitcoin? Because it's not. It's this one. Okay, is the investment in your brain, in your mindset, in you becoming a leader, you understanding masculinity, you understanding what it takes in order for you to succeed in life in general, and creating an indestructible attitude independent of circumstance that is excited about the future, that's excited about whatever's happening any given time, and who pairs himself and gets himself in a situation with the strong financial foundation that makes him not just a leader during this depressionary time that's coming, but a 10x leader. Okay, so it's not like you just keep the stuff that you have, you 10x it because you have the capacity to, because you've learned how to during the good times. We're still in good times. Eventually, the time will come when you will have a 50% stagnation to your business. The question then at that time is, are you able to pay your team? Are you able to pay the rent? Are you able to pay whatever is necessary in order for you to continue to expand? Because if you were and you are able to do that, that means that you can 10x during the coming, recession, coming depressionary times. And 10xing during that time frame means that when you come out of that situation, it's 100x, it's 1000x and beyond. Like the boom times are going to be absolutely incredible for you for generations as a result of you setting yourself up the right way prior to the situation. So, if you understand this, we're still in good times, but don't allow those good times to make you a weak man. Become strong now, because becoming strong now is a choice. And once you make that choice, then you're strong during the bad times already. And that means that you can lead other strong men. You can be a leader of leaders during that difficult time frame. And once you're there, now once the good times come, this is a positive thing. This is like you can't be beat yourself up about it. You can't oh no, freak out and panic already. Like this is coming to you at a time where you can actually solve this equation. If you go out there now and apply for 100 jobs every single day, if you're unemployed or you're struggling financially, or you haven't worked for a while, if you already have a job, like get a second job. you know if you already have a business, then double down on your business, make sure that it becomes profitable and pay down the debts, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have debt and you kind of are in a situation where like, oh shoot, I don't have any money. So if you still are in good times, like I said, if you apply for 100 jobs, if that's what you need right now, every single day, you're going to get 3 jobs by the end of the week. During depressionary times, it might take you a month, right? But you're going to get jobs, and you might have to work for free for a while. While in this current situation right now, you don't even have to work for free. Okay? So you might as well get started now, become a leader, and I'm excited for you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.